How does it feel to be one of two quadriplegic police officers in the entire country?
It's something I'm extremely proud of. Um, Pat Hanlon retired back in, I want to say like 2016 or so. And then I heard, and I met just through email, another individual who was injured. He was driving his patrol car after shift, again with the Ontario Provincial Police. He's driving home, and all of a sudden, a moose jumps out in front of his patrol car, lands, so he hits it, and it comes up and lands on the roof, and it breaks his neck and renders him quadriplegic. So his name is Stephen Jones. And again, as I said, he works at the Ontario Provincial Police. And I spoke with him here back in just July of this year. And he's only working part time. That's what his physical limitations are. He's able to work from like noon until 4 on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But and this is kind of touches on an interesting part of what I've learned with having a disability is no matter what your disability is, whether you're quadriplegic or paraplegic or have a different disability altogether, everybody has their own limits. Everybody has their own what do we call it? Their own restrictions, I guess, where they can only do so much, and that's so important to know, so that you're not, pushing yourself too far. Whether it's your physical health or your mental health, you've got to be so aware of that. And and Stephen really made me kind of consider that. Being working full time now for all this time, I've been lucky that my body is adjusted and I'm able to still do so. But I've had to overcome a lot of adversity and a lot of barriers doing that. And I've sacrificed a lot as well, as far as missing out on maybe some of the funner aspects of life away from work. But just because I love what I do so much, it's a passion of mine. So I continue to do it full time. But I encourage anybody with a disability or anything to pursue whatever it is you dream of, because dreams are so important to have. You just don't want to ever give up on them, and don't let them die just because you have a disability. Everybody with a disability has ability, and it's just so important to remember. Right after my accident, I was still in. I think I was still in the ICU, but I had a member of the Spinal Cord Injury Association of Alberta. Back then, it was called Canadian Paraplegic Association. He was a quadriplegic. He super nice guy. I remember his first name was Mark. I can't think of his last name at the time, but anyways, he was in a manual chair. He had enough arm strength to push himself. He had a belly on him, like I do. And when I saw him, though, like I was in peak physical condition at the time. And when I saw him, I was like, "That's not going to be me. I'm walking out of here." And when I said that to him, I said, "This, I'm not going to be in a wheelchair. I'm going to walk out of here." I could see it in his eyes at the time. He was very sportive. He's, "I sure hope you do, but I'm here if you need me," kind of thing. And I swore up and down I wasn't going to be like him and whatnot. And it wasn't until his third or fourth visit when I really realized, wow, you know, he's still living a life. He still, looks forward to every day. And uh, it was at that point that I also realized, look at what he's doing. He's giving back to others that have been injured, that are in a position where he's familiar with, and he's trying to help them. And I said, no matter what happens to me, I'm going to do that. That's something that I want to do. And ever since I was able to spin my head around that, I've worked towards trying to give back. I've served on a number of boards and committees directly dealing with people with disabilities. I was on the Alberta Premier's Council for people with for the status of persons with disabilities, trying to make life a little bit better for anybody that has a disability. And that's the same reason why, I do the speeches that I did with Petra, that I'm talking with you today. I hope whatever someone can get out of what I'm saying or how I'm working or whatever, if it can help one person, then I've done my job. I've done something good. I hope it helps more than one, but I, that to me is so important for people in similar situations to know that no matter how dark or how bleak life can be, the sun will come up tomorrow, and there are good times ahead of the bad.
Wow, it's and just absolutely, it's a great motto to live by. It's one that I try to strive to fulfill as well. And would you say that that's the most rewarding aspect of your line of work, or
I think so. When I hear, and I've heard from time to time from people, whether it was when I was giving gang presentations or working in homicide or throughout the last 20 years, I've heard back from people that are saying, wow, you're such an inspiration, or you're such a good example for even just able-bodied people. I know that my colleagues always like, if I ever have a bad day, I just think of you, and immediately my bad days are better. And that for me is definitely the most rewarding um, part, I guess, of being disabled or being in the position that I am. If I can help others get through tough times, then that's what God put me here for. That and I'll strive to do that as long as I'm on this side of the ground. So.
absolutely? Um, you've touched on this a bit throughout the interview, but is there anything that you've learned about yourself, or maybe about society as a whole, about your experience with a disability?
Yeah, a couple of things. You're right. Some of the things I touched on was the resilience of people. I know there's people that I know of that are way worse than myself. Um, One of them that I look up to, I can only think of his first name. It's Stephen, but he was a member of Parliament for a number of years. He was quadriplegic, high level, like I want to say C3, C4. So that's higher up in the bird range. I'm a C5, 6 quadriplegic where I have use of my arms. I can type, I can eat and drink with assisted devices and stuff like that. But Stephen was paralyzed right from the neck down. He drove his wheelchair using a head control. He became a member of parliament, and I had the opportunity to meet him, I believe, twice, and when he was out west here, and it was just so. He for me was so inspirational in that here's a guy that can't move a muscle, and look at what he's participating in society. He's at the highest level of politics and in the toughest environment, and he's thriving. Uh, so, uh, so yeah, I kind of hope that others can do that as well. Is no matter what your situation is, there's always somebody that's worse off. And if you can look to them and look at them as an example of the resilience and at the willpower of some of those people, um, you should be able to pull yourself through anything. And in today's day and age, we're starting to see it more and more, where reaching out for help isn't a bad thing. Years ago, and I remember, as I said, my dad was a police officer in Calgary. And years ago, if any policeman admitted that they were affected by a real gruesome homicide scene, or the fact that you were in a shootout and what you saw really disturbed you, if you admitted that, you were considered weak, and it was a bad thing. Whereas in today's society, I'm so happy that it's realized that reaching out for help is a good thing. It's a positive thing. We look at some of the celebrities today that have done so, and like the U.S. gymnast in the Olympics that took a step back, even though she was like the forerunner for the gold medal. She took a step back, and Carey Price with the Montreal Canadiens, how he stepped back after going right to I think it was the seventh game of the Stanley Cup Finals. And the start of the next year, he's like, sorry, I've got some issues that I need to deal with. My mental health is more important than anything else. And for those examples to be out there, I think nothing but good can come from it, because it's reducing that stigma that asking for help is a weakness or is um, a negative, when it's the furthest thing from it. It's so positive, and you can get help, whatever help you need.
It sounds like all of your work, be it through um, uh, with the force or just public outreach and advocacy, it's really served as an outlet um, from your disability. Is there anything else that you've also taken on, like any hobbies or?
Yeah, no, and that's also something. I've been very fortunate. Again, I know because working full time and whatnot, that I have a little bit more of an advantage. So I'm able to, I was able to, in 2018, I was able to purchase a wheelchair accessible RV. For me, that was life before my accident. I always went camping, hunting, fishing, all that. I loved the outdoors. And hence why I lived on an acreage. And by the way, I forgot to mention earlier, I still do live on that same acreage where my accident happened.
Good for you.
I look out to the left of me here, and that's the deck where I jumped off the railing and had my accident. But I absolutely love the serenity it brings. But anyways, yeah, I was able to purchase an accessible RV, and uh, me and my common law spouse and her aunt were able to travel around Alberta and do different camping and get out back to the wilderness. Of course, during the better weather. I'm not a cold weather guy at all. But yeah, uh, that's such a huge getaway and release for me. Anytime I can get away and do that, it's incredible. I also have different accessories that allow me. I can still shoot a gun. I can still hunt, and whatnot. Although I haven't done any serious hunting or shooting or anything for a long time, but if I want to, I can. So yeah, and I definitely, uh, I enjoy recreation as far as I love watching movies, uh, getting together with friends and whatnot, and we try and do that as much as possible. So yeah, I mean, having a social life uh, is so important, and I mean, I think everybody knows that, and it's even amplified now with this pandemic. That for a lot of us, including myself, the last 22 months has literally been without a social life. So I'm looking forward to when we can finally get back to some normalcy.
Is there anything that you would like to tell our listeners, perhaps a young individual with a disability who's aspiring to become a police officer himself?
Yeah, you know what? And this is kind of funny, or ironic, maybe is a better term. I was asked back in 2010, 2012, right in that area. So probably 8 years ago, almost the exact same question about somebody young uh, with a disability aspiring to be a police officer. And the answer I gave at that time, and I'm a little bit horrified to say it, but was, well, a person with a disability can't become a police officer. Uh, the training we go through and some of the requirements are that you work in patrol, you have to attend calls, and that's a job requirement uh, and whatnot. And that was the case. I mean, I was still trying to. I had just gotten back to work full time, so I'm still trying to fight and open doors back then. But with the shift of society, and even with me now sitting on the Chiefs Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, I can honestly say the amount of opportunities that I've had and knowing what I know now about the police culture, I would say to a young individual with a disability aspiring to become a police officer to go to school, get a good education, go to post-secondary education, whether it's with criminology or any kind of post-secondary education. Even if it's completely away from policing, it just shows you're uh, willing to learn, you're willing to push yourself. Because I honestly am hopeful that the way society is going and the way we are now looking at policing, it will be possible for somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with a different disability, uh, to become a police officer, to be able to skip through going to patrol and working out of a patrol car to coming to work in behind the scenes, work on investigations in a different role or a different capacity, but at the same time, still fulfilling that role of a sworn police officer. I can honestly say I think we're close to being able to do that, and I hope it happens while I'm still a member of the Edmonton Police Service. I know my goal is and I'm working directly with the chief, uh, Dale McPhee, on the Edmonton Police Service to try and hire more people with disabilities. Right now, that's serving as uh, possibly civilian positions, but uh, with, as I said, with everything, I'm going to be proposing that there's no reason we couldn't try this and see what we can make of it. So uh, stay positive, uh, keep forging ahead, and I think anything is possible. Anything is possible in today's day and age. One of the key things, though, with that, um, nobody, nobody wants to hear somebody that's negative and always complains and always feels that everybody else has it better than they do. Um, so the most important thing that I know I've tried to do is always have a positive attitude, always maintain that positivity, especially when you're around others. Don't get me wrong, I still have horrible days. There are days when I'm in excruciating pain and I scream and yell and wonder why I deserve this. But um, the positive aspect of life and knowing, like I said earlier, the sun will come up tomorrow and the pain will subside at some point during the day. And life is always better on this side of the ground than what the alternative is. So keep a positive attitude, keep forging forward, and you can accomplish anything.
Well said. Well said. Bryce, thank you so much for coming on. I've learned so much from the short time I've had speaking with you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. This has been Sean Burdett with Reimagined Radio. I hope you guys have a good night tonight.